Happy Thursday, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Stroke Support Group's Strategies and Lessons. My name is Gina Malika, and I'm Program Manager for Get With The Guidelines, AFib, and Stroke Registries. Additionally, I work with our team on Mission Lifeline EMS. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. This webinar is being recorded and will be sent via email within 24 hours. There are no continuing educations associated with this webinar, but you may access a certificate of completion in your follow-up email at the conclusion of today's event. You will have the opportunity to submit text questions by typing them into your questions pane of your control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We'll collect these and address them during the panel sessions throughout today's presentation. If you experience any technical issues during the presentation, most can be resolved by refreshing your browser. If your issue is not resolved by refreshing the browser, please refer to your GoToWebinar customer service team email located in your confirmation email. If you're looking for the slide deck, that can be found in your handout section of today's presentation. Before we get started, we just wanted to highlight that we are celebrating 20 years of Get With The Guidelines Stroke. And we're proud that this program has been working to continue hospitals to improve outcomes for patients. Our research teams are examining programs' influence on stroke patient practices, and we'll be debuting that later next year. We have 3 panelists for our webinar today, and I'd like to introduce them now. We're so excited to have Jeannie Luciano here from the American Heart Association. Jeannie's our Senior Manager for Quality for Stroke and Atrial Fibrillation, and she's been here since May of 2019. Previously, she was the co-director of the Comprehensive Stroke Center and certified registered nurse practitioner at the Hospital of University of Pennsylvania, where she worked in various roles in the neurology and neurosurgery departments. She joined the stroke team in 1995 and was a coordinator on approximately 100 acute stroke and stroke prevention studies. She's been a certified neuroscience registered nurse since 1990 and certified registered stroke nurse since 2013, both by the American Board of Neuroscience Nurses. Jeannie's received numerous local and national awards, including the American Heart Association Distinguished Achievement Award, the AHA Lifetime Achievement Award, and the AANN Advanced Practice Nurse of the Year Award at the University Hospital of Pennsylvania. She's lectured locally and nationally on acute stroke management and stroke teams, including stroke center development. Jeannie was appointed as a fellow of the American Heart Association since 2003. In 2012, she was selected by the American Board of Neuroscience Nurses to the inaugural development committee for the Stroke Nurse Certification Examination and is currently the chair of their committee. Next, I'd like to introduce Anna Taylor. Anna currently serves as our National Senior Program Lead for the American Stroke Association, a division of the American Heart Association. The American Stroke Association is devoted to saving people from stroke, the #2 cause of death in the world and leading cause of serious disability. We team with millions of volunteers to fund innovative research, fight for stronger public health policies, and provide life-saving tools and information to prevent stroke. The Dallas-based association was created in 1998 and is a division of the Heart Association. Anna joined AHA and ASA in August of 2018. Prior to joining the organization, Anna worked at the National Stroke Association for over 6 years, and prior to that, nearly 12 years in public health. Anna holds her Bachelor of Science degree in microbiology and a Master of Science degree in community health education. Last but not least, I'd like to introduce Wanda Jackson. Wanda is the outpatient care coordinator at Sarasota Memorial Healthcare System. She's been there since 2008 when she was hired as a supervisor of patient information for the Emergency Care Center. She then went on to supervise the newly established Patient Assistance Program, where uninsured patients were helped by either finding a payer source of completion application for financial assistance. Sarasota Memorial Health Center then created a much needed position of outpatient care coordinator, which would not only help patients navigate the ever-growing outpatient services provided by the hospital, but also help them connect the dots from inpatient to outpatient. Currently, she is the clinic coordinator, facilitates a stroke wellness club, a stroke support group, cooking class for stroke survivors, Parkinson's Wellness Club, and support groups, mobility challenge group, outpatient cardiac and pulmonary rehabilitation navigator, as well as speaking at numerous events and other services as needed. Wanda moved to Sarasota in 1988 and calls the beautiful west coast of Florida home. She's been married to her husband for 43 years, and they have 3 beautiful, married, and self-sufficient children. More importantly, she is happy to show you photos of her 6 sweet, smart, and amazing grandchildren. Thank you all for being here today. Our objectives for today are to develop an understanding of what stroke support groups are, identify the best practices within them, and be able to highlight new ways in which stroke support groups and retention of keeping groups engaged. Additionally, Anna's going to share at the very end some very, very helpful resources from the American Stroke Association and ways to navigate for group leaders. I'd now like to kick it over to Jeannie Luciano to begin our presentation.
Thank you, Gino. Go to the next slide. So I have no disclosures except for the fact that this is a topic I'm really passionate about, and I will disclose that I think as a person who helped to run and coordinate stroke support groups, you get so much more out of it than your patients even do. So I want to start off with that thought. So happy Nurses Week, folks. And I love this because as a nurse, you know that every day you will touch a life or a life will touch yours. So I think this is really key. And what other professions can we get to say that in? So I'm going to talk to you about getting started, and hopefully the trajectory of this whole talk will help you get to the point where you can either start a support group or to really enhance the programs that you have. So you want to get organized. So you have to identify your key person or two. If you're one of our many stroke coordinators out there, you can probably just raise your hand now because that will likely be you, but it doesn't have to be. You can have a leader of a stroke support group who could be a social worker, a discharge planner, a therapist of any sort. Even some centers have a really, engaged stroke survivor lead their support group. You should have some advisors or group facilitators, and this can vary depending upon your topic. It could be a therapist or a social worker, somebody really familiar with the impact of stroke on families. A sponsoring agency, and I kind of use this, I guess a little loosely, because really doesn't have to cost you a lot of money to have a stroke support group. A sponsorship can be as simple as providing space once a month, or as involved as producing a newsletter or providing transportation. So, it doesn't cost a lot to buy cookies and beverages, but and a planning committee. Support and input from others are really crucial. It really helps you to look at the big picture and come up with some new and inventive ideas. Your planning committee should represent a spectrum of survivors, caregivers, different types of therapists. I like to engage stroke fellows and residents in this process because I think they learn so much from our support group members. Next slide, Gina. Thank you. So specialized group. This first specialized group is the younger survivors, and this is the one near and dear to my heart. We had a young adult stroke support group when I was working at Penn. It was actually started by a 19-year-old Penn student who is still to this day a friend of mine. She was 19 years old when she had an acute stroke and wasn't finding the support and community support groups that she felt she needed. Interestingly enough, I once got a call from a gentleman who was 83, and he said, "Well, how young's young?" And I said, well, nobody's too old is the answer to that. And he said, I think I can really bring a lot to the group. And he really did. People with aphasia. So people with aphasia with special communication challenges, some of them even using communication devices, might be challenged in a regular support group. I often think it's difficult for patients who are dealing with aphasia to be able to get that opportunity to speak up in a group. But you can either incorporate them into your regular group and be aware of the challenges that they are dealing with, or have a separate aphasia support group. So caregivers, the support group that I participated with, we used to include the caregivers with our stroke survivors. But many sites have seen the benefit across all disease processes, not just stroke, to give a separate forum to caregivers who may not have a comfort level with talking about their person they are caring for in front of them. So, it was interesting. We had caregivers who would show up without the person that they were taking care of. One gentleman came for an entire 2 years. He came every month, talked about his daughter who was a stroke survivor, but she never felt comfortable coming. And then she finally came and was this vibrant, wonderful addition to our group. And then the virtual option, and I'd love to get through one webinar where we don't have to mention COVID, but COVID, I think, really brought this to most of our attention. And additionally, a lot of our stroke survivors had transportation and mobility issues. They can depend upon the kind of facility you work at. You can have a wide geographic disbursement of where your patients are coming from. So virtual options are also a very good option. I love that Wanda, who you're going to be hearing from later, told us that she had to develop a one-pager on how to use Zoom for her virtual people. So stroke group support group development. So who's going to run it? So we already talked about that. So who are you going to invite to it, and how are you going to get that information to them? So and a lot of what you hear me say comes from my own experiences. But we used to give the information about our stroke support groups to our patients who were inpatients. But we also used to give it to patients in our outpatient clinic. I find that so many patients are inundated with information in the inpatient setting that they don't really absorb it very well. And we also, I'm sorry, Gina, there, you can keep that there. We also were, because we had a specialty group, we attracted people from a wide geographic area, and a lot of patients who weren't even treated at our facility would hear about our group and come because they had special needs. They thought it would meet their needs. When should you have it? With our support group, we used to have it at 6:30 p.m. in the evening. We tried doing it earlier in the day, and I have to honestly say that was probably for the benefit of the staff, not the patients as much. But we were also concerned about people traveling at night and things like that. And it just didn't work out because a lot of people needed transportation or as somebody to drop them off who might be at work during the day. So we kind of hung with that 6:30 p.m. Time frame. Where should you have it? Space is a commodity in hospitals, right? We at one point in time used to have it in the hotel across from the hospital. And then we decided that we had an inpatient rehab center that we would use the conference room in the rehab center, and we would get a list beforehand, even though a lot of people would be coming from outside. We would get a list of the inpatients at that time and go to their room and wheel them down if they needed to the conference room. So just make sure that wherever you have it, that you have handicap accessibility there. And how are you going to communicate it? Some of the support groups have Facebook pages. Some of them, use email. Some of them use good old snail mail. But communication is really important. You might run into issues where you have snow and you don't want people coming out with snow. That was always our challenge. Oh my gosh, it's supposed to be icy tonight. We don't want these people traveling. So, really communication is really a key, isn't it? The key to basically everything. And then have some mutually agreed upon rules. This is something that was kind of important to our group. We want to, make sure that everybody would have an opportunity to speak. And sometimes that would take some policing. You would have people who could speak for the entire 2 hours of the support group, and you other people who never felt comfortable speaking up. Our early support group people decided that they were not going to consider themselves stroke victims. They were survivors. So that was sort of their mantra. We are stroke survivors. So a new person would come to the group and they'd say, Oh, I'm a stroke victim. I had my stroke at age 25, that's many years ago. And they'd say, you're not a victim, you're a survivor, you're here. So it was really putting that positive spin on it. The other thing that I think is a good rule overall is we tried not to talk about though we would talk about medical topics, we would not talk about specifics of this stroke survivor's own case. We were not there to be their medical consult. We didn't have the right information in front of us to make any kind of decision. So we would not talk about their specific medical issues. Next slide, please. So successful support group meetings. You can have education. Expert practitioners can provide pertinent information. We used to have a occupational therapist that we'd have her come in once a year and do like a show and tell of devices. What's the newest grabber that they could use, and that kind of thing. Sorry, my screen just got a little messed up here. We had pet therapy come in. We had sex after stroke with our young adult stroke support group. That was like an identified issue for them. That was one of our biggest attended things. And that's the other thing you need to understand, that sometimes you'd have a support group and you didn't always know who was coming. Sometimes you would show up and you'd have 2 or 3 people there. But you know what? If those 2 or 3 people needed that time, that was just as important as if you had 50 people there. Our Sex After Stroke talk, we had over 40 people show up for that event. And we had people that were coming repeatedly long after their stroke, many, many years. Recognition. You want to really acknowledge members and their incremental victories, anniversaries, achievements, any changes in health status. We had weddings. We had people who got married. We had babies that were born to our stroke support group. And then on the flip side, we had deaths. We had recurrent strokes. We lost a very active member of our group who was a young guy who survived 4 strokes by the time he was 20 years old, and then ended up being killed as a pedestrian who was hit by a drunk driver. So his parents, who had never met us, because he used to come independently and sometimes with his sister, but his parents, who never met us, came to the support group to meet everybody and talk to them. And it was sort of some grief counseling there for us. Social, you want to make time for members to mingle. And this is really important. It's interesting that we always wanted to try to have topics, but honestly, these people got so much from each other during the time, like just knowing that there was somebody else in the same boat as them. So food is always important. If you feed them, they will come. But I'm not talking, dinners, although we did used to have a holiday celebration where we'd have a bigger celebration. But we get cookies, and we had one guy we knew, one girl's father, he was a oatmeal raisin cookie guy, and he said that was always a joke, internal joke. You want to have leadership development and make sure this is almost like a succession plan as somebody who has left an institution. So you want to make sure that you have a plan for, like, if you're not going to be there, that who is going to run the support group. You want emotional support, groups that foster emotional support through a buddy system. Welcoming committee or peer visitor programs have greater impact on their members. You want information swapping. Nobody knows everything there is to know about stroke, but boy, do these people learn how to share their tricks of the trade. My favorite story is this one lady, Julie, and we had a young girl. It was her first time at our support group. She was only in her early 30s, and she had pretty significant aphasia and pseudobulbar affect disorder. And she was struggling with crying, and she was struggling with getting words out. And Julie said to her, hey, you want to know a trick? If you feel like you're going to cry and you don't want to cry, think about somebody you hate, and you won't be able to cry. So this girl said, well, I don't really hate anybody. And she said, well, I'll give you my person to hate. So Julie shared her person she hated with our other new person. And then resource networking. It's really, they are really a valuable group. Once again, they changed my practice. They changed information I would bring back to our team and say, hey, you know, this came up at our support group. We're not doing this well. We need to do this better. But they also became really active in the community. They would show up at our screenings that we would do, and people would walk by and say, oh, I don't need to know anything about stroke. I'm only 30 years old. And they say, yeah, well, you know, I was 24 when I had my stroke. So kind of changes the spin. They were active at lobby days and even met with some of the local senators with us. Next slide, please, Gina. You have to remember your why. My screen's here. So this is something we use at the American Heart Association. So this is one of our support groups, and sometimes, you know, the day would be coming up and we wouldn't have a speaker, and I would, you know, say, you know, what are we going to do for our support group? Well, one time we decided that we were going to have everybody bring something that they were proud about, which it ended up being such a wonderful topic. So this is Fran. Fran was only in her 30s when she had her first stroke. She was the mother of 4 children. Once we had a family counselor come speak to us, and Fran, it was touching to me that she said, when I had my stroke, I lost all my titles. I used to be somebody's mother and caregiver and lover and best friend, and I feel like I've lost all my titles, which is really, really something to hear. But when we asked for the why, we found out that Fran had had another stroke, and she sent us this message. She said, I cannot join the group this week, but wanted to share why I am proud. I am proud of the little wins, like being able to keep my lips closed while I swallow a spoonful of pudding, excuse me, and being able to successfully get my ideas from my brain to others' ears. I am proud of my resilience. I am proud of us, of all of you who work to make things better for ourselves, yourselves, and others. Love to the group. See you next month, Fran. So, you know, there's a woman of resilience right there. The next slide. So I love this, and this is just one more thing I want to share with you. So this is, and this is not sharing any protected information. This is a physician who has been very public about his stroke, and I know this physician. And on an interview, they said to him, you've had so much loss on many levels. Physically, you might not operate again. You have said you're going to have to reinvent yourself. And he brought up this concept. He said, there's a Japanese concept that if you're broken and you get put back together, you get put back together stronger and better. And there's an artist who interpreted that by taking her pottery pieces that are very beautiful, and she breaks them purposely and puts them back together using gold leaf and creates a much more beautiful piece of pottery and artwork. This has broken me and I'm dealing with loss, but I'm actually like, you know what? I'm going to be better than I was. Maybe I won't be a better surgeon, but I will be a better in some ways. And that's really what gives me the strength to push on. So continue, you can go to the next slide, Gina. You can continue to be inspired by your patients as I am, and I am inspired by all of you who have taken the time to be here today with us today for American Stroke Month. I am going to hand off to my colleague, Wanda Jackson.
Hey, I am very thrilled to be with you today. I have no disclosures. This has all come from many years of experience, and groups change and grow. And so we're going to just share some of what we've learned with you. I am from Sarasota Memorial Healthcare in Sarasota, Florida, where it is hot and sticky here today. And I host many different types of support group. And I think one of the things is keeping that online calendar in any area like ours is very important, that you have that one person who keeps it up to date. So I work with a lot of our neuro, people with Parkinson's, stroke, muscular dystrophy, ALS. We work with our caregivers. In the stroke side of things, we do a 6-week free cooking class for stroke survivors. We allow a +1 to join us. We all chop, cook, stir, and eat together. And we do that class twice yearly. We do offer it as well in Spanish. Besides our support groups for like Parkinson's and stroke, we do co-groups that are called wellness clubs. So our stroke wellness club. This is where we put the biggest effort for our speakers and our education times, but I'll share that we also do some education at support. I'm also on the advisory group for our Health Fit gym. It's a medically integrated gym that's owned. We call it Powered by Sarasota Memorial. And we have one class, well, we have a 12 to 1 class and a 1 to 2 o'clock class on every Monday, Wednesday, Friday called Fitness Forward, which is for our stroke survivors. We also do specific classes for other issues like Parkinson's, cardiac, osteoporosis, cancer, and more. I love speaking to our groups. I love sharing some of the information and meeting people. And a lot of what we do, whether it's promoting stroke or if it's promoting rehab therapies like vision rehab, driver's evaluation and rehabilitation, or hand therapy or golf therapy, a lot of this marketing is done at these speaking events at our wellness clubs as well. So we love working with our community and educating them as well as offering the support that they need. Next slide. So examples of a successful group is what they asked me. And I said, well, one where people attend. It's not a really great group. You don't have anybody there, but they're going to come when they feel comfortable to share openly and honestly. We talked about the fact of some of them crying. There's a lot of emotions, especially those where this is all very new to them. Our solution for our criers is I keep an Altoids box, those strong mints. And if you really can't control it, we pass the Altoids around and then we laugh about who took the Altoid. So we want these people to be able to do these things that they're needing to say, the questions they need to ask. And I think Jeannie made a great point, and we don't talk about the clinical side and the medication. There's just a lot to each person and they're very different. But we answer questions about bathrooms and how do I get in and out of the boat, and what kind of golf cart are you using now that your left side is weak? And we have a adaptive golf group even. So we let them talk about anything. A successful group is one that's facilitated in such a way that everyone who wants to gets a chance to share. They're all able to say pass, and then we come back to them, see if they want to pass again, or if they're ready to share that second time round. It does take some skill and practice, because sometimes you feel like you're cutting someone off or not allowing them to go on and on, but everyone needs to feel that they're going to get their chance to talk. And timing is everything. For us, I know Jeannie mentioned that 6 o'clock with transportation and evening hours. Our people, we got a lot of retired community, and our golden hour that everyone wants is 10 a.m. It's not too early. They've had a chance to get up and get moving. It's not too late before lunch and naps and other activities. Everyone likes that time. However, there are groups with different dynamics and needs. And as the group changes, that time, location can change as well. Know your audience. But I will say, if you've advertised your group from 10 to 11:30 or 12 to 1 or 12 to 1:30, you need to stick to the time. Even if you have the time to stay, you need to make a break and say, okay, it's 1:30. I know that's the time we advertised till. So feel free to grab your stuff and get going if you need to get going. So we want to stick to that time frame. We don't want to feel like they've gotten locked in and can't get out. We do set some ground rules, and I don't just do this when we have new people. I kind of go over the basics real quick every group, because sometimes the more you get to know each other and the more like family you start to chat, the ground rules can really get broken quickly. It doesn't mean me. You don't mean that for me. And yes, I do mean that for you. So what's shared here stays here. We don't go out and tell everything that we've learned about everybody to everybody who wasn't in the group. I do ask them to briefly state their first name, tell us when your stroke occurred, what is your current struggle, And if they have a couple of them, just give me one. If we can, we'll come back to you. Because if you don't control the one talker, you're going to lose the rest of the group. Tell us, I always like to end with, tell us where you've seen improvement, be it ever so small, because you like to see that. And if you don't stop, especially if a stroke's been a year ago, and acknowledge that improvement ever so small, sometimes they forget to even notice and see that they're making improvement. And we want to encourage that. I always tell them, you know, we can teach old dogs new tricks. Sometimes it just takes us a little longer to learn that. We do open up that discussion to any topic as it relates to your stroke in your life. And again, the people walking this walk and struggling are the ones that can really give you some good insight, perspective, and even ideas on how to handle something. I do provide a topic handout. I will say I get a lot of these off of the American Stroke Association websites, and I'll put it on a Word document and print out some copies. Every once in a while, we have a group that's not big into talking, and maybe we'll just get the ice broken by going over a couple of points on that handout or asking a question. More often than not, it's just a great educational handout, so they feel like they went home with some sort of new information. Strategies and tactics. So here we go. Don't be afraid to mix it up, because we've been doing our groups for a long, long time. And if a support group meets every month, year after year, I hate to say it, but sometimes it can get boring, or you can get on that slide where it's all depressing. So I do try to mix it up, you know, for the holidays, to bring in special food, even something as a table decoration. They come in and they just feel like they're important and you made extra effort. We used to do coffee and cookies all the time. And now it's hit or miss, but we do it occasionally. We try to celebrate all the birthdays the first of the month, and so we'll bring in a plate of cookies or coffee that time, but it does not have to be every single support group. Sometimes I bring in prizes or gifts or appreciation for something. Sometimes after a session, and I'll tell them in their email that we're going to have a sponsor, like a mobility vans are in the parking lot, or we have the SCAT Plus bus system. Sometimes they bring it so people can see what one of those vans look like if they need help. So we'll bring those in just as extra education, mixing it up. I think it's really important to show them how much you care and that you're always excited to see them. And I call it the cheers moment, where you greet them by name. Use name tags. It's because it's sometimes as you get going, names just slip past you. Remember what they've told you before. And I have a sign-in sheet. And when I pick up my sign-in sheet at the end of a support group, that's only for me at that point. And I will cheat and write down little tidbits of their life. So next month when they come in, I can say something to them like, hey, I saw your Yankees won last night, or how did your granddaughter do in softball tournament? They love that cheers moment. And remember the old Cheers TV show? And when Norm comes in, everyone says, Norm. It's that moment where they feel seen and that they're welcome and that you want them there. Occasionally when I'm mixing it up, I do bring someone in to share their story. Jeannie had a number of really fascinating stories there, ones that should be shared because they're very inspirational. And I love those kind of stories. And it really does, especially when it's something with a big impact, it brings that support group to a deeper level. When they see the vulnerability of someone else sharing their story that I bring in, they will then be more vulnerable and open as we move forward. We do have to refresh the group with new members. This is an important part, especially with our stroke groups. We keep a smart sheet, and we like smart sheets because different people can be on them at the same time throughout the organization. So this is our stroke smart sheet. The nurses, as they're on the floors visiting patients, and updating information. They get their emails. They ask them, do you want to share your emails for stroke events in our system? And if they agree to put it on that smart sheet, that I have access to that. And so I put them on my email list. And I send out a monthly email with all things stroke. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. You know, our support groups, our wellness clubs, our cooking, our exercise class. I always attach an American Stroke Association article at the bottom. I assure them that I do not give their information out to anyone else. This is in my computer on my list, and I only send them one email a month. No matter what's going on or happening, I try to limit that to one email a month, because I know I've signed up for different organizations and then I start to wish I hadn't, because I keep getting emails from them. And always blind copy emails. So if they reply only to me. And that way I'm not sharing the group members' emails with a whole bunch of people they might not know. It is really important to involve your system. So my healthcare system, we have a secondary stroke and TIA clinic, and we have a coordinator who's an ARPN. And so she goes over not only their test results and the doctors and their medication follow-ups, but she gives them all the literature on our support groups, our educational, our cooking, our exercise. And again, she gives them my information if it's not already on that smart sheet. We have, in all of our hospitals, we have the Venice Hospital and the Sarasota, we have an area called Health Connections. We do talks there, but we have all kinds of literature. We have that pet therapy. We have educational talks from hurricane preparedness to immunizations. So we make sure that our Health Connections have these flyers and that we have opportunities to speak as well. If you have a stroke committee like we do at our hospital, it's a great place. I am on the agenda every single meeting, and I explain to them who's coming to speak, you know, what our numbers are. This is where I also get speakers from. So it's really great to be part of that inside team that really knows what's going on. This way, when a stroke patient is coming and the doctor says, you really need to get to the support group. You know, a wife or husband can tell them you need to go to support group, but when a doctor says it or their nurse, it just carries a bigger impact somehow. So it's really nice to have your system on board with it. We do, I mentioned, keep that online calendar up to date. I don't know who's going to come, so we can't cancel at the last minute because it's going out to the community. It's in advertisements, it's on signs. So we try to train them to go to the calendar to see if there's a cancellation, if there's inclement weather or something, because we don't reach out to them at that point. And there's a lot of work that goes into every single one. So you can get a Wanda, an outpatient care coordinator, someone who you have a final contact. So within our system and outside in the community, they know who to call. And again, make sure the switchboard knows who to send them through to as well. This is just an example of one of our flyers, Lifelong Stroke Education and Support. This is the one that we developed during COVID, right after COVID, because we had combined our support and our education times, because numbers all were on Zoom, and then coming back, they just kind of trickled in. So we combined it for a little bit instead of having 2 monthly meetings. But the reason I put this on here is having that flyer and a consistent date and time is really important. Having a flyer that every nurse, every doctor, every marketing agency in your system has is really important for renewing those memberships. Next. This is just a quick example of how I do monthly emails. You know, making sure we give the date, the time, and the locations and parking and all that information is important. I will tell you, I've gone back and forth. For a while, we tried to tell people that you make stroke wellness and support a part of your ongoing recovery. And so we would just want them to come regardless of what the topic was. So sometimes we don't tell them the topic. Other times we've gone with telling them the topics and the speakers. So again, mixing it up, trying this and trying that. 1 o'clock is where we now landed with that. It's not the golden hour that they all wanted, but we've kept it consistent with our education and our exercise classes that meet at the same time on different days. And that's just, you know, a phone number that they can reach out as well. The next screen. This is the continuation of that monthly email. I always highlight some of our facilities and the things that we're doing, like our Health Fit Gym that has that class. I always put the Be Fast on all of the emails because we want to make sure they recognize signs of stroke. I always have an article from the American Stroke Association if they want to go to that. And then again, names and phone numbers so that they can reach us. This is just the flyer for our Health Fit Fitness Forward program. It tells them a little about what they can expect, that we're going to, you know, regain, retrain, and retain what we have maybe lost, what the program includes, and some highlights. And we do have scholarships available. Next. Adapting to the group's needs, different dynamics. We have aphasia groups as well. And as these groups change and new members come in, sometimes you really do need to adapt for more wheelchairs or the date or the time or rooms or locations. Things happen, you no longer can use the room that you had last year. Listen to suggestions, but you cannot please everyone all the time. So you can't change everything to please one member, but you have to continue to do what's good for the majority. It is a constant evolution in a group or a support group. There's new people, new needs, people come and go. You can't take it personally. Some get better. Some have secondary strokes and actually get worse. I've had people that have been with me and they're now aging. They have other comorbidities. They have cardiac issues and diabetes and, you know, and some lose their means of transportation. So there's a couple of sayings that you hear military men use, like stay fluid, stay frosty, keep your head on a swivel. Those are really good advice because you don't have a crystal ball. And we just have to stay frosty, even in Florida, constantly listening and looking for that new, innovative things that you can do with your group to keep them coming back, keep them interested, keep them bonding with each other. We do like the social time before and after, but a support group is very much like a Florida garden. If you don't water it, if you don't put something into it, it's going to shrivel up and disappear. So you have to continue to monitor, change, and inspire those people. Thank you so much for having me today, letting me share some of this.
Thank you so much, Wanda. It is great to be here today. Next slide, please. The American Stroke Association, as already been mentioned, is a division of American Heart Association, and we were created in 1998, so we're actually celebrating 25th anniversary this year. I also, this being May, wanted to wish you all a happy American Stroke Month, time when we can come together to defeat stroke by learning and knowing stroke warning signs. Our success lies in teaming up with millions of volunteers to prevent, treat, and beat stroke by funding innovative research, fighting for stronger public health policies, and providing life-saving tools and information. And why do we do it? Because stroke is the #2 cause of death worldwide and a leading cause of disability. Our mission is to be a relentless force for a world of longer, healthier lives, and I would add, with improved brain health, fewer strokes, and reduced disability. The pillars of our work represent how we're working to prevent stroke and disability from stroke by leading breakthroughs in stroke science and technology, by funding millions of dollars in stroke research, by publishing top research in our journal Stroke, and by developing evidence-based stroke guidelines. We work in Washington, D.C. and across states to advocate for effective stroke policy. We work to improve stroke systems of care by developing resources to support hospitals and healthcare providers. Through our suite of quality improvement programs, such as Get with the Guidelines Stroke and Target Stroke, we work to transfer healthcare. And we work to transfer communities through public education campaigns and partnering with schools and local organizations to meet the needs of patients and their families. For today, I would like to focus on our work in transforming communities and how we do that through our Together to End Stroke initiative. Preventing stroke is by empowering Americans to live healthier lives and protecting their brains. Treating stroke by raising awareness about stroke warning signs. Beating stroke by enhancing support of stroke survivors, loved ones, and caregivers through some of our campaigns like American Stroke Month or World Stroke Day. We also have the Stroke Resource Library where we can find patient and healthcare professional tools, brochures, fact sheets, and more, all in one place on our website, which is stroke.org. Supporting stroke survivors and caregivers with practical and emotional support available in a variety of different ways. Online through the support network community, by phone through our toll-free stroke warm line, and in person by finding a local stroke support group using our Finder tool. We also offer the Cycle Nation events where we use cycling to improve cardiovascular and brain health and support our mission to prevent, treat, and beat stroke. Starting a support group requires a lot of work, but the payoff is helping stroke families rebuild their lives. On our website, you can find tips and best practices for either starting or strengthening an existing group, including our guide to successful stroke support groups. On our website, we also host a national stroke support group registry. Whether you're a brand new support group or need to update the information for already existing group, don't wait and make sure your group is registered and your information is current. Your registration assures inclusion of your group's information when stroke survivors and caregivers are searching for a group using our Stroke Group Finder tool. If you're looking for a topic idea for your next stroke support group, I invite you to check out our lesson modules. Each was developed to help inform you, the leader, on a range of topics relevant to stroke survivors, caregivers, and the post-stroke journey. Currently, we offer 8 topics. Each includes a presentation and a discussion guide, handouts, and a short video. Each topic is based on science and best practices. We are currently developing 3 additional topics, so do check back regularly as we do keep adding them. In November of 2021, we also launched a quarterly e-newsletter specifically for group leaders like you. We're working on developing a sign-up form, but in case you're interested in getting your name on the list right now, please email us at supportgroups@heart.org, and I will make sure you're added to the list. Lastly, I wanted to highlight a few additional resources. Recovering from stroke can be a long journey. No matter where in their recovery, there is help, and we offer a wide variety of resources to support stroke survivors, caregivers, and their family members. These include fact sheets, guides, cookbooks, and videos, ranging from exercises demonstrated by physical therapists to tips for stroke survivors and our step-by-step videos on topics such as meal preparation, grocery shopping, home safety, and more. We invite you to stay connected through Facebook, Twitter, and our website, stroke.org. We also have a couple of monthly e-newsletters that I invite you to subscribe to if you're not already doing so. Both provide helpful and most up-to-date information. And each kind of varies a little bit in the audience that is intended for, but again, both provide, great information and always highlight any of our new resources and such. And I think that concludes my presentation. So Gina, I'll turn things back over to you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Jeannie, and thank you, Wanda. I think we're going to get to our question section here. And between Jeannie and I, we've been watching the chat a little bit. And just give us 1 second here. We'll pull up some questions and we'll get started. Wanda, I think this question's for you. Somebody was wondering about your experience transitioning your stroke groups from in-person, or from virtual rather, to in-person, and do you use a blended format now? How's that working for you?
We did use both for a while because we, being in Florida, we have a lot of snowbirds. So we have people that are part of our group, October, November, December, January, February, and then they head back up north, and they didn't want to lose out. It is difficult in the support group aspect to have Zoom and in person. So then for a while, I split the groups and I just worked with our online, and we had a separate time for our in person. The Zoom seems to work better when they're just coming in for the educational ones. So again, it's the stay fluid thing. We have tried all of them, and we've done all of that, and it's just what your group needs. I will say, if they're going to leave and you're going to have a Zoom, train them before they go. It's easier to do it in person.
That's
Being
very...
a Northeasterner, I want to thank you for taking care of our snowbirds when they head your way.
We love our snowbirds. That is not a derogatory negative comment whatsoever. And we are so good in Florida with medical records going back and forth because we do so much of it. So we look forward to them rejoining us every fall, and we do love our snowbirds. Well, except for when you're on the road and the traffic is bad.
Anna, I think this question might be for you. I know there's a lot of resources available on the Stroke website, and somebody had asked, what are the best resources or maybe opportunities available to become a facilitator? Whether that be some resources that you know of, or potentially, then we'll transition it to Wanda to see how you can then take those and implement them.
So I would say that I think our successful support group guide does, I believe, include some tips in there as well. There might also be some information available on that webpage as well, so stroke.org. You can also, if you're looking for something specific, please feel free to, email us at supportgroups@heart.org, and I'll be able to, point you in the right direction. I don't believe we have any tips or like fact sheets on facilitating itself, but like I said, the guide does have some helpful information, especially if you've never facilitated a group before as well.
I'd also add, reach out to a colleague too. If you know somebody who's run a support group, they can give you, I see they come across AANN's listserv all the time. I want to start a support group. Where do I start? Reach out to your colleagues.
And I think the good word is facilitator, because you're not there to be the one talking. You're there to keep it in the parameters of a support group. Takes a little bit of the pressure off in facilitating. As long as you're dedicated and put the time in and do the communication, it's going to work.
Thank you. Jeannie, I think that I know you addressed it in the chat, but I wanted maybe to see if you wanted to elaborate on the hemorrhagic stroke population and how they can be incorporated in the group. Oftentimes they sometimes don't think that they're a part of this group, and so how you can do that in your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So honestly, and it's funny, another question came through about head injury patients. Do you include them in there? So the aneurysmal subarachnoid hemorrhage patients, your intracranial hemorrhage patients, all stroke patients. I think because I think they have more similarities than differences. So I think they do benefit from the support group. We every once in a while we would cover like a risk factor. We'd have a nutritionist, but not bad information for your aneurysmal patients or for a head injury patient either. But we tended not to make it very medical. Every once in a while, and I think I alluded to this earlier, we did have our doctors come. I used to make it mandatory that they attend our Christmas party, and but like we would not keep it medical. I think the doctors learned more at the thing. One came back to me the day after one of the meetings and said, "Oh my God, it was my patient who was saying that her 3-year-old was helping her put her underwear on," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's reality. That's what happens." No, I think we can. I think they have more similarities than differences when you think about deficit, and we're not really as much addressing specific mechanisms of stroke.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question, and I'll pass it to Wanda. What would you say is maybe the top or maybe top 2 barriers to starting a group, and how would you overcome that if you're going to start one at your facility?
I think the biggest barrier is the communication with your own staff, the ones that are right there bedside, the ones in the clinics. If they're not putting in the input, if you don't have the marketing with the flyer, if you don't have the staff input, just an advertisement in the paper is not going to do it. So by going to the stroke committee meetings, by talking to the nurses, by going to the TIA clinics, putting in the effort at that front end to be with the patients, that's the best thing to do, but that's also the barrier when you can't get there. And what was the second part?
Just how you would overcome it.
Yeah, you just got to put the time in. You got to be right there in the trenches where they are coming in.
Jeannie, did I miss any question that you can think of that came up?
No, I think we covered basically everything. I just want to say thank you to everyone who has participated. Thank you to Anna and Wanda and Gino especially for organizing this whole event. We appreciate everything that you do in your communities. We appreciate your commitment to, I said it's always kind of weird to say Happy American Stroke Month. It's not necessarily a happy topic, but at this time we do honor your commitment to your patients and to your communities to really optimize stroke care. So thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.